All right, we have followed Job through some truly unimaginable loss, through intense suffering, and through round after round of really flawed arguments from his friends. Today, we finally get to the grand finale. This is the divine climax and the final resolution of his epic story. So let's dive in and see how it all ends.
This is the one question that has been hanging over the entire book. Job demanded an audience with God. He wanted a reason, an explanation for everything. He basically wanted to take God to court. But God's answer, well, it's not what anyone, especially Job, was expecting. He doesn't give a simple reason for Job's suffering. Instead, he gives Job a whole new vision of himself.
So God's response doesn't start with a legal argument or a philosophical debate. It begins with this incredible whirlwind tour of creation. He's showing off his power, his wisdom, and it all builds up to a description of a creature so immense, so powerful, that it just completely dwarfs human strength. He's talking about the Leviathan.
God starts with this simple, almost taunting question. Hey, Job, can you go fishing for this thing? Can you pull it out of the water with a hook? Can you tame it, control it, maybe make a pet out of it? And the answer, of course, is a huge, resounding no. And believe me, God is just getting started.
The way Leviathan is described here, it's just pure poetic power. This isn't just some big animal. It's basically a force of nature. Its scales are like an impenetrable shield. It literally breathes fire and smoke. And human weapons, it treats them like a complete joke. This creature is just utterly, completely beyond any human control.
This comparison just powerfully drives home the massive gap between humanity and just one of God's creatures. Think about it. Everything we humans pride ourselves on, our tools, our weapons, our strength, it's all rendered completely useless. Hooks, spears, iron, brass, arrows, they are all nothing. Less than nothing to Leviathan.
And this, right here, is the crowning description. Leviathan is totally unique on earth because it is made without fear. The text calls it a king over all the children of pride. It represents this wild, untamable power, a creature that answers to absolutely no one, except, of course, its creator.
So you see, God isn't just giving Job a biology lesson here. This whole speech about Leviathan is a powerful visual argument. The point is this: if you, Job, can't even begin to comprehend or deal with a single creature that God has made, how could you possibly think you can understand or judge the God who made it all?
Now, this powerful speech isn't meant to crush Job. It's meant to transform him. And the effect is immediate and incredibly profound because Job finally gets the one thing he truly needed all along: a direct, personal encounter with God.
This line might just be the most important one in the entire book. Everything up to this point, all the theology, all the debates with his friends, everything Job thought he knew about God was second-hand information. It was just hearsay. But now it's personal. It's a direct revelation. He sees.
So Job moves from knowing about God to truly knowing God. It's kind of like the difference between reading a travel guide about the Grand Canyon and actually standing on the edge of it, seeing it for yourself. The sheer experience of God's majesty just completely reorients his entire perspective.
And this is his response. But it's important to understand this isn't the repentance of a man confessing some specific sin his friends accused him of. No, this is the deep, profound humility that can only come from standing in the presence of infinite greatness. He abhors his own arguments, his own limited perspective, and he repents of his pride in dust and ashes. Okay, so with Job's heart now aligned with God, the story moves into its final act. And this is where we get to see God's justice and his faithfulness play out, not just for Job, but for his misguided friends too. In what has to be a stunning reversal for the friends, God turns to them and he rebukes them. He says all their neat, tidy theological boxes were wrong. They actually misrepresented him. And fascinatingly, he says that Job, with all his raw, angry, desperate questioning, spoke more rightly of him than they ever did.
God then lays out a very specific path for their forgiveness, and look who's right at the center of it: Job. The very man they condemned is now the one who has to intercede for them. They have to bring the sacrifices, and then Job has to pray for them. Only then will God accept them. This totally elevates Job and shows us what true reconciliation looks like.
So, After Job prays for his friends, the text tells us the Lord turned the captivity of Job, which basically means his fortunes were reversed. And this restoration wasn't just, a return to how things were, it was a doubling of every blessing he had before.
And just look at these numbers. They really show how complete this restoration was. 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, every single material thing he lost was given back to him twofold. It's this incredible, tangible sign of God's overwhelming grace and faithfulness.
But it wasn't just about the wealth. His family was restored too. He has new sons and daughters. And you have to notice this amazing detail. He gives his daughters an inheritance right alongside their brothers. In that culture, that was a radical act, and it shows his new, grace-filled perspective. He goes on to live a long, full life, seeing his family flourish for 4 generations.
So when you put it all together, this powerful conclusion leaves us with some really core themes. God's sovereignty is absolute. True sight, true understanding leads to humility and repentance. Forgiveness is central to the story. And God's ultimate character is one of faithfulness and incredible restoration.
And all of that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. The book never actually gives us a simple answer for why we suffer. And maybe that was never the point. Maybe the real lesson isn't about finding the reason, but about finding God himself and learning to trust his wisdom even when, especially when, the reason remains a complete mystery.